What if the battle against procrastination wasn't a war you had to win with sheer willpower, but a game you could win with a simple trick? A trick so subtle your own brain doesn't even see it coming. Imagine that the biggest, most intimidating task on your to-do list, the one that haunts you and fills you with that low-grade dread, could be started and maybe even finished, not with some surge of motivation you have to wait for, but with a quiet commitment of only 300 seconds. This isn't about finding more discipline or just working harder. This video talks about how one ridiculously small habit can fundamentally rewire your brain's response to work, dismantle the architecture of avoidance you've built over years, and unlock a level of productivity you thought was reserved for other people. You will learn about the 5-minute rule, a manual for how to get your own mind back on your side. Let's be honest, we've all lived in the land of tomorrow. It's this beautiful, perfect place where we're all the best versions of ourselves. Tomorrow, we'll start the diet. Tomorrow, we'll write that first chapter. Tomorrow, we'll finally organize the garage. In the land of tomorrow, the resistance we feel today just vanishes. The task isn't daunting, it's manageable. Our focus is laser sharp, our energy boundless. But tomorrow has a dirty secret. It never actually arrives. When you wake up, it's always today. And today, that task looks just as big and just as unpleasant as it did yesterday. Now you have yesterday's guilt layered on top of today's anxiety, making the whole thing even heavier. This is the procrastinator's paradox. The more you put something off, the harder it becomes to start. It's a cycle that feels impossible to break, and it's not just about bad time management. It's an emotional prison. You know you should be doing the thing. A part of you desperately wants to do it, just to be free of the stress. But you don't. Instead, you find yourself doing literally anything else. You clean the already clean kitchen. You fall down an internet rabbit hole. You suddenly decide it's the perfect time to research the history of the stapler. Anything to avoid that feeling of discomfort. I remember this feeling with excruciating clarity. A few years ago, I had this massive project. It was important for my career, something I was genuinely passionate about. But it was a mountain. Every morning, I'd sit down at my desk, open a blank document, and just stare. The blinking cursor was like a tiny rhythmic pulse of my own failure. The sheer scale of the project would flood my mind. All the steps, all the research, all the writing, all the potential for it to just not be good enough. It was paralyzing. My brain, in a desperate act of self-preservation, would scream for an escape. The feeling was physical, a tightness in my chest, a static in my head, and my brain would offer me a deal. Just check your email for 5 minutes. That's still productive. Just a quick look at the news. 5 minutes would turn into an hour. The brief moment of relief I got from avoiding the big task was quickly washed away by a tidal wave of shame. I'd wasted time. The project was now even more urgent, which made it feel even more intimidating. Procrastination isn't relaxing. It is the most stressful form of laziness, because the shadow of what you should be doing is always lurking. So what is this powerful force that makes smart, capable people act so directly against their own best interests? It's not a character flaw, it's brain science. Deep inside your brain, there's a battle being waged. On one side, you have the limbic system. This is one of the oldest, most primal parts of your brain. It doesn't get logic or long-term consequences. It runs on one simple rule: avoid pain, seek pleasure, right now. When you look at a task you see as difficult or boring, your limbic system sounds the alarm. It registers the task as a threat, and its immediate response is to get you away from it. This is the part of you that picks the instant gratification of a funny video over the delayed reward of finishing a report. On the other side is the prefrontal cortex. This is the more evolved, rational part of your brain, your inner CEO. It's responsible for long-term planning and regulating your behavior. Your prefrontal cortex understands that doing the hard thing now leads to a better future. Procrastination is just what happens when the limbic system wins the fight. This process solidifies into what psychologists call a habit loop. The procrastination loop looks like this. You see a task that makes you feel something negative: boredom, anxiety, self-doubt. That's the trigger. Instead of starting, you pivot to something else. You check your phone, grab a snack, watch a show. This is the act of procrastination. You get a temporary shot of relief. The negative feeling is gone for a moment. Your brain learns, when we feel that discomfort, doing this other thing makes us feel better. And just like that, you've trained your brain to procrastinate. Eventually, you don't even think about it. The cue of a hard task instantly triggers the routine of avoidance. You're not being lazy, you're fighting against a deeply ingrained, automated habit. So if we're fighting our brain's own programming, the solution seems obvious, right? Just use more willpower, be tougher, just do it. We clench our fists, grit our teeth, and try to power through the resistance with sheer mental force. And sometimes that might even work. For an hour, maybe a day. But soon enough, you're back where you started, exhausted and defeated, wondering why you can't make it stick. The problem is, we've been told to think of willpower as a character trait, something you either have or you don't. But modern psychology shows us it's more like a muscle that gets tired. Every decision you make all day, from what to wear to resisting the urge to snap at a coworker, wears it down. By the time you sit down to face your most dreaded task, your willpower is often running on empty. Trying to use brute force at this point is like trying to start a car with a dead battery. Relying on willpower is a losing strategy because it pits your conscious, rational mind against an automated habit loop that's been reinforced thousands of times. It's an unfair fight. You might win a few battles, but you'll probably lose the war. This is the insight that changes everything. The solution to procrastination is not more willpower. The solution is a better system. You don't need to be a stronger person, you need a smarter approach. You need a system that works with your brain's programming, not against it. One that makes starting so easy, it flies under the radar of your brain's threat detection system. The key is understanding the point of greatest resistance. Think about pushing a heavy boulder. The hardest part, by far, is getting it to move in the first place. That initial inertia is immense. Psychologists call this activation energy, the effort required just to begin. Once the boulder is rolling, it takes far less effort to keep it going. Procrastination is almost entirely a problem of activation energy. The resistance isn't about doing the work, it's about starting the work. Your brain sees the entire mountain and panics. So, the goal of our new system has to be this: drastically reduce the activation energy. We have to make the act of starting so small, so simple, so laughably non-threatening that our primitive brain doesn't even bother to fight it. And this is where the hero of our story comes in. The simple, elegant, almost deceptively powerful tool at the heart of our system. It's called the 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule is so simple, you might be tempted to dismiss it. But its simplicity is its genius. Here it is. When you're avoiding a task, commit to doing it for only 5 minutes. That's it. You pick the task you've been dreading and set a timer for 5 minutes. You tell yourself, I only have to do this for 5 minutes. And here's the most important part, the part that makes it all work. At the end of those 5 minutes, you have full permission to stop. No guilt, no shame. If the timer goes off and you still hate it, you are free to walk away, and you can still call it a win. You did what you said you were going to do. Mission accomplished. This seems too easy, but what's happening in your brain is a profound psychological shift. The 5-minute rule is a masterclass in outsmarting your own defenses. First, it dramatically lowers the stakes. Your brain is no longer staring at, write a 10,000-word dissertation. It's looking at, open the document and write for 5 minutes. The task feels so trivial that the alarm bells in your limbic system don't go off. There's nothing big enough to resist. Second, it takes advantage of a psychological principle that helps explain why it's so effective. It's related to something called the Zeigarnik effect, which describes how our brains tend to remember unfinished tasks better than finished ones. When you start a task, even for just 5 minutes, you open a mental loop in your brain that seeks closure. Your brain doesn't like unfinished business. Just by beginning, you plant a seed of incompletion that your mind will want to resolve. Third, and this is the absolute core of it all, it flips the script on motivation. Most of us think we need to feel motivated before we can act. We wait for inspiration to strike. But the truth is, action creates motivation, not the other way around. Motivation isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. When you start, no matter how small, you build momentum. As you see yourself making a tiny bit of progress, your brain releases a little dopamine. That feels good, which in turn motivates you to keep going. The 5-minute rule is the spark that ignites this fire. You're not waiting for motivation, you are manufacturing it on demand. So what really happens when that 5-minute timer goes off? You have your permission slip to stop, and sometimes you might use it. That's fine. But something magical happens a surprising amount of the time. You just keep going. Why? Because the hardest part, starting, is over. You've overcome the inertia. The boulder is rolling. You're already in the document. You've already washed a few dishes. You're already in your running shoes and out the door. The path of least resistance is now to simply continue what you're already doing. Here's how to put it into practice, step by step. Step 1. Identify your task. Be specific, not work on my project. What's the one action you're avoiding? Open the spreadsheet and enter the first row of data. Read one page of the textbook. Put on my workout clothes. Pick one concrete physical action. Step 2. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Use your phone, a kitchen timer, whatever. The physical act of setting a timer is a small commitment ceremony that tells your brain this is real. Step 3. Work with singular focus. For these 5 minutes, you do nothing but the task. No checking your phone, no other tabs open. Just you and the task for 300 seconds. Step 4. Make the choice. When the timer rings, stop. Take a breath. Now ask yourself, do I want to stop or do I want to continue? There's no wrong answer. If you stop, close the laptop and tell yourself, I hit my goal for today. This positive reinforcement is vital. You are training your brain that showing up is a win. If you feel a flicker of momentum and want to continue, great. Go for it. This simple process is the key that unlocks the door of procrastination. It's not magic that makes the work disappear. It's a strategy that reliably gets you to show up and gives momentum a chance to take over. The 5-minute rule is the spark plug. But to turn this trick into a bulletproof system, we need to build a supportive structure around it. This is how we move from consciously fighting procrastination to subconsciously defaulting to productivity. There are 3 pillars: designing your environment, engineering your habits, and celebrating your progress. Pillar 1. Become an architect of your environment. The best way to guarantee you'll use the 5-minute rule is to make starting so absurdly easy that it's harder not to. This idea, popularized by writers like James Clear, is about shaping the path in front of you. You want to decrease the friction for your good habits and increase the friction for your bad ones. If you want to run in the morning, what's the high-friction version? Your alarm goes off. Your running shoes are in the closet, clothes are in a drawer, headphones are dead. It's easy to hit snooze. The low-friction version? The night before, you lay out your running clothes. Shoes are by the door, headphones are charged and sitting next to them. The path is clear. You've removed every decision point. Your mission is to look at the task you're putting off and ask, what can I do right now to make starting this for 5 minutes 10% easier tomorrow? You're giving your future self a gift by making the right choice the easiest choice. Pillar 2. Stack and bundle your habits. Great habits don't exist in a vacuum. The best way to build a new one is to connect it to an existing one. This is called habit stacking. The formula is simple. After insert the current habit, I will insert the new 5-minute habit. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will write for 5 minutes. As soon as I change out of my work clothes, I will put on my gym clothes and stretch for 5 minutes. The old habit becomes the trigger for the new one. We can make this even more powerful with temptation bundling. This is where you pair an action you need to do with an action you want to do. The formula: I will only insert the enjoyable thing while I insert the 5-minute habit. Examples: I will only listen to my favorite podcast while I am doing my 5-minute kitchen tidy up. I will only watch the next episode of that show I'm binging while I am on the treadmill for my 5-minute warm-up. This transforms the task. It's no longer just a chore, it's associated with a reward, and your brain starts to dread it a whole lot less. Pillar 3. Track your micro wins. The final piece is creating a positive feedback loop. Procrastination is addictive because the reward, relief, is immediate. Our system needs a better, more immediate reward. This is where you celebrate micro wins. Completing your 5 minutes is a victory, and you need to acknowledge it. The simplest way is with a habit tracker. Get a calendar or a notebook, and every time you complete a 5-minute session, draw a big, satisfying X over the day. That X is a tiny trophy. It gives your brain a shot of dopamine and reinforces the idea that you're succeeding. Seeing a chain of X's build up becomes incredibly motivating. You won't want to break the chain. It also shifts your focus from the huge, distant goal to the small, daily process. You stop fixating on finishing the novel and start focusing on winning today. The prolific writer Anthony Trollope didn't focus on writing 47 novels. He focused on writing 250 words every 15 minutes. He got a win multiple times an hour, which kept him going. When you celebrate the micro win, you teach your brain that action, not avoidance, is the real source of reward. At first, the 5-minute rule is a conscious trick. But if you stick with it, something deeper happens. The change moves from your behavior to your identity. In his book, Atomic Habits, James Clear argues that the most powerful way to change your habits is to change your identity. The goal isn't just to write a book, it's to become a writer. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to be. When you procrastinate, you cast a vote for, "I'm a procrastinator." When you scroll on your phone instead of working, you reinforce the belief that you're someone who gets easily distracted. The 5-minute rule flips this entirely. Every single time you use it, you cast a vote for a new identity. When you do your 5 minutes of writing, you cast a vote for, "I am a writer." When you do your 5 minutes of tidying, you cast a vote for, "I am an organized person." When you do your 5 minutes on the treadmill, you cast a vote for, "I am a healthy person." These votes seem small, but they are the building blocks of a new self. One 5-minute session won't change your life, but 100 of them? They will fundamentally alter how you see yourself. This is the compounding effect of small habits. 5 minutes a day is over 30 hours in a year. 30 hours of focused work on a project that previously had 0. You are literally rewiring your brain. The old procrastination loop starts to weaken. Over time, this new loop becomes the default. You stop seeing yourself as a procrastinator who is trying to be productive. You simply start seeing yourself as a productive person. The struggle ends because the behavior is now just part of who you are. For years, you may have believed that procrastination was a permanent part of your personality, a character flaw. I hope you now see the truth. Procrastination is not who you are. It is a habit your brain learned, and because it's a habit, it can be replaced. You don't need to wait for a magical surge of motivation. You just need a better system. A system that starts with one tiny step. The 5-minute rule. It's the first vote you can cast for the action-oriented person you know you can be. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. For you, that step is just 5 minutes long. So here is my challenge, not tomorrow, right now. Think of one thing you've been putting off. It could be big or small. Pick up that guitar that's gathering dust. Open that email you've been dreading. Put 2 dishes in the dishwasher. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just begin. When the timer goes off, you have my full permission to stop. But you have to start. Then, come back here and leave a comment. Tell us what task you chose and how it felt. Let's fill the comments with stories of action, proving that we can take back control. And if this idea resonated with you, subscribe to this channel. We're going to be exploring more simple systems for taking control of your focus, your habits, and your life. Remember, you don't have to finish, you just have to start. Thanks for watching.